Good morning, church. It is good to be in the house of the Lord. I know we have one over there in the sun because she needs to be at a hot place, warm place. But it's good to be here, and we have an opportunity to learn this morning. And our guest speaker is going to be introduced by Sister Judy in a few minutes. But as we gather, we want to center ourselves again, because everything we do is an act of worship. And Isaiah chapter 12, one of my favorite chapters, says, "You will say in that day, I will give thanks to you, O Lord. For though you were angry with me, your anger turned away, and you comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and will not be afraid. For the Lord God is my strength and my might. He has become my salvation. With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation, and you will say in that day, give thanks to the Lord. Call on God's name. Make known his deeds among the nations. Proclaim that his name is exalted. Sing praises to the Lord, for he has done gloriously. Let this be known in all the earth." And it invites us to shout aloud and sing for joy, O Royal Zion, for great in your midst is the Holy One of Israel. That's what we do in worship. It is our opportunity to offer ourselves at the thanksgiving to God. For God so loved the world that God gave. And there's joy in giving. And there's joy also when we offer ourselves as an act of worship. And we are in this theme of stewardship. This we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. And we called it faithful, hopeful, loving. Three things that should mark the life of a disciple of Jesus the Christ. Faith, to maintain our focus. Hope, that our reality is not based on what's happening in our context, but look beyond, because God gives us what we need to look to the future with a different lens. And loving should be our great mark in terms of grace, as we embrace, relate, and offer ourselves in a way that is transformative to the people that we serve. And I would invite you, and I like if we're able to stand, if you're able to stand, to sing this song that reminds me when I was a kid, but it's still a good thing. 2031 from The Faith We Sing, and I think we're going to have it. We bring the sacrifice of praise. It is all about Thanksgiving. It's 2031 from The Faith We Sing, but it's going to be projected also in the screen if you want to follow over there. All right, let's join. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of joy. Let's sing it again. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving, and we offer up to you the sacrifices of joy. What an awesome invitation. Sacrifices of praise. What a kind of sacrifice is that? Sacrifices of thanksgiving. Give thanks to God at all times, and sacrifices of joy. That is our invitation this morning. Let us pray. God, we give you thanks for the gift of this day. You know us, you know our lives, you know our joys, and you know our challenges. But we come here as a humble recipients of your grace, to give you thanks, to offer you sacrifices of praise, thanksgiving, and joy. Receive our lives. And as we gather, we ask that your Holy Spirit be in our midst, that the theme and the conversation we're going to engage this morning be a blessing to us as we nurture ourselves in such a way that we prepare ourselves for the journey ahead. Be with us. We also acknowledge that we are in this season of stewardship, that you allow us to discern in what ways you can use our time, our gifts, our treasure for your glory. So we want to commit and consecrate our lives to you, knowing that you are faithful, that your hope nurtures us, and that your love continues to transform us. We pray this in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Governor Gatto. I know there are a few more people that are still eating that might join us later, because I know Georgette is coming in Carol. So I want to say welcome to you, Karen, our facilitator or speaker for today that's going to help us through the healthy eating, overcoming barriers to change, is Karen Berzinger. She is MSCFCS in LDN. She might break that down for us so that we can understand her background, and she does work for the Family Consumer Sciences from the University of Maryland Extension. However, her visit with us today is in cooperation with Howard County Office of Aging and Independence. I reached out to them because the holiday seasons are coming. We have people, some of us are aging, and we have eating disorders, or we need to change our diets and all that stuff. And I thought that we do need the help to go through the holiday season and for the rest of our lives. Karen, as I said, is with the University of Maryland Extension, and she's going to help us look at healthy eating. How can we adapt these ideas to our new diet? What has stopped us from changing our eating habits in the past? And what do we think might stop us in the future? Identifying these barriers now and having a plan to help us get past them is her goal. So I want to thank you all for coming as we just relax and listen to Karen. And she will be available for questions and answers when we're done. Karen, thank you so much for coming to help us.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy it. This is one of my best part of the jobs. I don't like the paperwork, which is the reporting that I have to do to campus, which goes to the federal government. This is my love, is educating people and helping them succeed. And that's what it is. You know, barriers, when we break down barriers, we're succeeding. So I wanted to, that's my goal in life. I want people to thrive. I want them to do well. And I don't care what kind of health issues you have. I'm here to help you get past it. So, yes, I am with the University of Maryland Extension here in Howard County. My life started at University of Maryland, actually, at College Park, because that was one of the few places that taught nutrition, health, and wellness in the state. But then I wound up with the federal government at good old Walter Reed, the hospital that has now been torn down. It is now what was Bethesda Naval. And then I went into dialysis and worked with people there. And then I moved on. So I've taught in college level. But when this job opened, I realized my passion was really to help people. And this is the best job ever. I didn't realize it at the time, but I also came to the point in my life that I realized I'm glad I joined Extension now and not earlier, because then I didn't have to wear a crazy uniform that they made them, They had a distinct uniform in those days. So when we talk about barriers, what are we talking about? What prevents you from eating healthy? Any input? I'm sorry? Time is one. Okay. Yes. How about, yeah. What did we just come through? Pandemics where the food supply chain was damaged. That made things challenging. The biggest blessing to us was that Governor Hogan got the farmers markets up and rolling even more and put a lot of emphasis on buying local, buying from Maryland. We love him for that. The farmers love him. We're all going to miss him. But what else? How about all those medicines that you may take? And it's like each bottle says, don't take with grapefruit juice. Don't do this. Don't do that. And when you get through, especially when I worked with kidney transplant patients, they had 10 bottles and they all said a lot of no's. And they're going, what's left to eat? Okay? It's a very real struggle. Also, supply chain issues. Can I just say, how many times have we gone to go reach for something and that shelf is empty? And I thought it was getting better. We're getting some hiccups again. So I wind up shopping 3 grocery stores. But some of us don't have that luxury to shop 3 grocery stores, okay? Here in Howard County, soon to be in Montgomery, is Sprouts. Okay, Sprouts talks about they buy local. If I could take them to court, I would. They don't buy local. They don't buy from any of the farmers that I've worked with. So that is something that we got to work and correct on. So, how about lack of time? We talked about that. But how many of you skip meals? Just because whether it's cost or whether it's because of time, because you're not near anything, or you're so busy, you don't hear your own body telling you it's time to eat. And I'm guilty of that. There are times I've done that. But you know what? Your body is very smart, because it will turn around and tell you that suddenly 2 and 2 is 8 instead of 4. Or you read a sentence. Why doesn't it make sense? That's telling you it's time to eat. So, and I know a lot of times we tell people for companionship, eat in front of the TV, but sometimes you wind up overeating and not hearing that you're full. So be very cautious of that. And don't eat out of that bag of snacks that's sitting there. Take out what you want. When I started this, I forgot to go on what's on my left-hand side of the folder. I'm doing a program with the 50 Plus Center, and it's actually an agreement with the University of Maryland Extension with all the senior centers throughout the state of Maryland. We do these programmings. So I gave you the rest of my schedule, and I know it's to the end of the year, but we're working on our new grant with them, so I can't advertise the new stuff yet. But my other passion is this. Maryland is such a diverse community. Hammond Harwood House has been the curator of the colonial recipes of Maryland. They are now incorporating all ethnicities and creating a new cookbook to go back to the recipes of all people coming into Maryland. So we're asking people, if you have treasured family recipes, please submit them. It's on the back page is the website, because they're not accepting them written. You have to submit it electronically. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, contact me and I'll submit it for you. But this is our time to shine. This is time for our family recipes to be part of something bigger. So we're recognizing all the diversities. Now, I have to say, this is my other dream thing. And I told her I left my turkey behind. This started with the Surgeon General under President Obama. We come together as families at Thanksgiving, and we share stories, and we laugh, and we just have a really great time. But we're finding with health issues, we need our family's history. So this is called our family medical history. The new version is online. Because I was with the starting days, I have the paper version so that you can start, because I like to write on paper before I put it on computer. So therefore, this is a great project. As you come together with family, go back, write down what they had, because that's going to help you as well as your doctor, plus your children or your children's children. These are the kind of data that we've been looking for. So this is going to be a treasured thing that you pass along to multi-generations. So like for me, my grandmother wound up with Alzheimer's. My grandfather had heart disease. He had cancer, yes, but I don't think it's the cancer that is going to be passed down because he owned a store. And you know how they tell us now, turn off the engine when you pump in your gas? Well, in those early days, they didn't. And so the car was running, and he wound up with throat cancer because of the gas fumes. So we know that's not something that's going to pass down to family, but the heart disease does. The Alzheimer's does. So that's why I'm encouraging you, as you get together with family and you talk to your relatives, fill this out. This is a living document of your family history. We talk about family history, who descended from who, but this is your family medical history of what happened to whom. And that way, it's a living, breathing document that will help in your children's and your children's children's care in the future. I so love this Surgeon General that came up with this. The current one is preaching this now as well, and we really do need to bring this back. So yes, it is something that will help everyone. Let's talk about a big barrier. You go to Dr. A, your primary physician, he has you on medicines. You go to another doctor, he puts you on another medicine. Keep a medication list. Carry that with you when you go to your appointments. Also, what I've done in the past is I write on the back the ones I had problems with. There are some that I hyper responded to, and I put it down on my list so that I can remember and I can share with the doctor so they know maybe that family of medicines isn't something she needs. So you don't have to go through that again. So that's my promo piece. Sorry about that. So when we talk about a barrier is anything that causes you to stumble. And we talked about some of those. But one of those is how to eat, okay? And one of my favorite things, and every time I go, please don't let it go away, is my plate. Because no matter what culture you are, no matter what your beliefs are, we all relate to the plate. Okay? And you set it up very much like this. We started preaching my bowl because people were moving towards the bowl, and then everything went crazy with the pandemic. So my bowl kind of lost focus. And so we're trying to bring back my bowl. But just know it's an 8-inch plate. Okay? And how do you know it's an 8-inch plate? If your cabinet door doesn't close, it's bigger than an 8-inch plate because cabinets are designed to handle 8-inch plates. So that makes it really simple. Okay? We talk about cook once, eat twice. But a lot of times it's like, I don't want to eat that again. So how do you redo it? So one of my things I'm trying to figure out is how do we set up a cookbook or how do we set up a website to talk about recooking it a different way? And I've talked to several cookbook authors, so we're trying, this is a work in progress, okay? Because that's the one thing I heard in the pandemic. I cooked this roast, but I don't want to eat it 3-4 times, you know? So we talked about hot roast beef sandwiches. I told them about cutting it up and turning it into soup. Make a homemade vegetable soup. But there's other things you can do. And so we're trying to work out how to do a cookbook for that. My passion is buy local. Okay? Here in Howard County, when you buy local, it's like part of the family. Our turkey farm is back up and running. We have wonderful beef farmers, but we also have vegetable farmers. Roving Radish sells those products. They sell the meal kits. I am still in hard negotiations for a meal kit for 2 because they only sell it for 4. He goes, I can't make a profit off of 2. I said, this is not about making a profit. This is about serving a bigger audience that don't you think the number of kits for 2 would exceed your break-off point? So we're still working on this. Our other thing is processed foods. They're high in sugar, high in salt, and number 1 cause for obesity in the U.S. We don't like to point fingers, but it is. So start cooking again. Rely less on the processed foods. We had to rely on them during the pandemic for some folks. Now let's go back. I know people tell me buying local, buying fresh is expensive, but we have certain things in place in the county that we're working on to get that. One of those is that now that we have the same county exec, maybe I'll get a little step closer to get some more relief funds in there. I like the microwave. You know, that cooks in less time. But also there's the Instant Pot. And the Instant Pot is a really fail-safe pressure cooker. It's got all the bells and whistles for security that you don't have to worry about. We all heard the horror stories of them exploding. This won't explode. Instant Pot was developed by a gentleman that lost his job, tinkered in his little shop, came up with this, put all his money into developing and making it and doing everything to get it to the stores. Pyrex acquired him. But he has this whole big factory now that he can produce more. So he is doing well. He's now incorporated the Instant Pot into a slow cooker as well. So you can either slow cook or you can use the pressure cooker. So he has been quite versatile. All right. What else do I want to say? All right. Sugar. Did you know regular sugar, when you cook with it, is fine? Do you know what our enemy is? Added sugars. The added sugars are actually what's causing the obesity crisis, the increase in diabetes. And for a long time, I've heard people, oh, sugar is poison. And I'm going, no, it's not. It's just how you do it. But our food manufacturers got smart. So I'm giving you in your packet the list of all the names for sugar. And there are a lot of them. Okay? Now, a lot of people are going, coconut sugar is healthier. When you use coconut sugar, you can also raise your cholesterol because coconut is high in the bad cholesterol. So please be very careful with that. But in our new label, look what's under total carbohydrates. You'll see dietary fiber. Then you'll see total sugars. But underneath total sugars is added sugars. So it tells you how much added sugars is in the product. So in this example, it has 12 grams of total sugars, but 10 of it's added sugars. Well, maybe I shouldn't buy this product. Let me see what else is there that has less added sugars. This is what we've been asking for a very long time. You never saw so many nutrition professionals. It's like the high five. At one time throughout the United States, it was like, yes, they finally hear us. Okay, we had to make some changes in FDA, but that's how we got this. Okay, and so we're really happy with this because people were leaving on the shelves some very good products because it said on there it had sugars. But there's a difference. Natural sugars, the body handles very well. Added sugars is the one that makes you get fat. So when you see the added sugars there, look for something that doesn't have any or a lesser amount. This is the one thing we were so happy it finally made it on there. We asked for a few other things. We've got vitamin D now on our new label, which we asked for because we do have a vitamin D deficiency. We asked to bring back potassium. Potassium was on the label, and then it was taken off. We asked for it to come back because some medicines tell you stay away from high potassium foods, or the doctor may say cut back on your potassium. So we asked for the potassium value to come back for that reason. So that is back to help you make healthier choices. So now we come down to our good old friend, fat. Okay? Fat-free is not your friend. You may think it sounds healthy, but fat-free, when they took the fat out, they added sugar to bring back flavor. So low fat is the safest way to go. Don't do fat-free, please. It's going away. It was starting to come back, but with sugar, I want to bring back one thing. Our sugar manufacturers are really swift. And what's on that sheet you see, but my number one thing is high fructose corn syrup or high fructose corn sugar. Two versions. One that acts like sugar. The second version causes you to gain weight. We're asking them to clarify it on the label. Not getting very far, so I tell people avoid high fructose corn syrup as much as you can, because we don't have no way to know which one is being used. So we talked now with fats. We talked about avoiding fat-free. Coconut. Everybody's turning to coconut because it's natural and it's healthy, and it's high in bad cholesterol. And if you ever looked at coconut fat, it looks like lard in a jar. And anything that's like Crisco or lard is a saturated fat when it's that stable at room temperature. So that's the one that's going to raise your bad cholesterol. Okay? So that's the one you need to kind of walk away from. Healthy fats, olive oil. Extra virgin or virgin. Don't go any lower. Because extra virgin is the first press, virgin is the second press. Anything third and under can cause GI distress, but does not protect your heart. One thing about olive oil, it is very heart healthy, and it helps lower that cholesterol. Saturated fats, like we talked about Crisco, that are solid at room temperature, increases your bad cholesterol. Everybody's throwing out the term gluten-free. Okay? Gluten-free is a specific diagnosis. It's not a weight loss. People who use gluten-free products wind up causing themselves some GI issues. Gluten-free is specifically meant for people who have a disease that requires them to eat gluten-free products. So just remember that, okay? It's not the new diet craze. We've cut salt by 20% already in our processed foods. We were going for another 20 when the pandemic hit. We've got to get the supply chain up before FDA will start requiring them to go for another 20%. You've heard of broths, from bone broths to the homemade broths. Bone broth, we're finding some issues like there's lead in it and some other not so nice toxins. And everybody swears that it makes you feel healthier. Please stay away, okay? It's just not a good thing. If you make your own homemade broth or you cook with broth that comes from the can, that's fine. It's just we're finding issues right now with bone broth. Dairy, low fat only. Do not do fat free. Why? Dairy is the number one way of us to get vitamin D into our system, and vitamin D makes healthy bones. When you have fat free, no matter how hard we shake that carton, the carton gets the D, not you. It needs fat. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it needs fat to be absorbed. So 2% or 1% milk is fine, but no more fat-free, okay? Plant-based milk, right? I'm still wandering this maze. This plant-based products took a big jump during the pandemic because it was alternate food sources when we couldn't get our traditional ones in the mainstream. So the plant-based milks have taken on a life of its own. And I'm still trying to make heads and tails of this. Look and make sure that it has some fat in it so that you get the vitamin D. And that's right now my main concern. Otherwise, you may have to change. If the recipe calls for a cup of whole milk or milk, 2% milk, is it equal with the plant-based world? And that's what I'm working on. Don't have the answer yet. Just working on it. From what I'm getting from the industry is we may have to change the proportions. So we'll see. This is a work in progress. All right. So we talked about that. About that. Eat slowly. And I know a lot of times people will tell you, eat in front of the TV. You know, watch it. But sometimes you look down and it's like, what happened to my food? So you can do it in front of the TV, just be mindful. And it's about the whole movement of mindfulness. Eat slowly, appreciate what you have, and enjoy it. Also, when you bring snacks in, take a small amount, put it in a bowl. Don't bring the whole bag in, because the next thing you look down and the bag's empty, and I don't remember eating the whole bag. So only take a small portion out. Never grocery shop hungry. You buy more than you realize, you know? It's like, that's kind of like the thing of, oh, that looks good, this looks good, and you get home and you have something to eat, and it's like, why did I buy this? Make a list. I have a piece of paper on my refrigerator that as I get something runs out, I write it on the list. That way I don't have to go back in the store a second time, okay? Also, compare prices. And the ads are back out a little bit better. Compare between stores, which works better, which has more of what you're looking for. I still sometimes have to shop between 2 stores. During the pandemic, I was going to 3 just to fill out my list and my dad's list. My dad had AFib surgery right before we shut down. So I've been cooking some for him, but I've been doing his grocery shopping and picking up his meds to keep him safe. And it works. So if he puts something on the list, daughter was going to 3 places to find it. Eating out. Okay. The whole restaurant industry has evolved and is still evolving. Supply chain issues, but also they know people want healthy. They're also trying to keep their costs down, so you will come to their restaurants. So it's nothing wrong with asking for a doggy bag, and they're fine with it. I don't think anybody really says no. But eat slowly, enjoy the company you're with, try different things. I know I hate to try something new and then I not like it, and it's like I wasted the money. But I've been pleasantly surprised. And especially in these smaller restaurants where it has a chef there, a truly trained culinary chef that wants to bring you his best. Those are the ones that you get the best surprises from. And you may think he's a little expensive, but remember, he doesn't have big corporate Joe behind his back, telling him what to do and how to cook it. He's bringing you fresh flavors with herbs and spices instead of salt. He's using olive oil instead of Crisco. He's doing a lot of healthy cooking. So, take the time and experience those restaurants. Hydration. Oh my gosh. We are a nation that's dehydrated. So remember to stay hydrated. And I put a nice little handout in your folder on hydration, how to hydrate. But I also did another one on rethink your drink. Because we never realize, you see grams of sugar? Well, this tells you how many teaspoons. So these gives you tips on how to hydrate. And it's simple things like, now it says here drinks a sports drink. I tell people sports drinks are for athletes. And really and truthfully, I look at other things. There's a company here in Baltimore called True Lemon. They have dehydrated lemon juice in a packet that you can add it, and it goes right into a glass of water or a bottle of water. It is a wonderful product, and it's sugar-free. They also have they made their own lemonade, too. So, and same thing, that you can make a glass that you don't have to buy the whole bottle. I always tell people sports drinks are for athletes. So unless you're doing a hard workout, kind of walk away from the sports drinks. But water is best. But look at the hidden sugars. But what I like about this one, it tells you which is naturally occurring sugars, which your body handles the best. Okay? It's the added sugars that promote the weight gain. So when you look at this, like soda, it's added sugar. If you look at sweet tea, if you buy the processed one, it's added sugar. If you add it at home, it's added sugar, but probably not at the height of the sweetened tea that you buy in the store. But if you buy unsweet tea, bottled unsweet tea, there's 0 sugar. So this helps you make some really good choices. And that's why I gave it to you. I always tell people, quality, not quantity. Focus on the quality of the food, the taste of the food. Makes a big difference. So here's my other thing. Sleep. We haven't been sleeping well for a long time, and even before the pandemic. We've just been in this vicious cycle, and we need to listen to our bodies. If anything, some of us got the message, listen to the body, okay? It's talking to you. It's been talking to us. We just haven't listened. So if you need having problems sleeping, get into a routine. Try and figure out what is it. Turn off the TV, because that blue light. Turn off the laptops. Put the phone away somewhere, away. Far not near you that you see the blue light, but, that impedes your sleep. If you're worried about something, give it up. Okay? Pass it on to the Lord and say, help me through this. That helps you through the night. You carrying that burden isn't going to solve. Is it worth giving up your sleep? Okay? So, this is my little thing. Sleep helps the body to repair itself, restore itself, and detoxify itself. So it is really important. Moving is great for the bones, not just for weight loss, but for your bones. So find something you like to do. And when you start out, I always tell people, give me 5. Walk in place for 5 minutes. Walk around the house. Go up and down the stairs for 5 minutes. That promotes weight loss. And that gets you going. And you go, okay, what else can I do? But that is the easiest thing you can do. There is a movement in Howard to put sidewalks throughout the county so people have a place to walk safely. We're rebuilding. I just sat on one during the pandemic that they wanted to do one near one of the schools, and I'm going, wait a minute. And I said, I think we need to get our watershed guys in here. And she goes, why? And I'm going, look at the crack in the sidewalk. That's water damage. And so I told my watershed guy in the office what was going on. He goes, oh, I'm so glad you listened to my lectures. You're right, that crack is there. So he helped them build a better sidewalk so the kids can walk safely to school. So we are working on that now. But as the more we sit, and we did a lot of sitting in those first 2 years of the pandemic, cancer rate goes up, depression increases, which we saw during the pandemic, brain freeze. We weren't processing as well. And as well as prediabetes goes up. So yes, we had to shelter in. I was working in my flower beds, I was raking leaves, I was doing anything to get outside, just to move. We need to start doing that. And winter's coming on, and it's a little harder to do, but even walking in place in your house makes a big difference. A lot of doctors will say, oh, yeah, you look a little tired, take a multivitamin, take this, do this. Well, they're good, they're okay, but once your appetite comes back, you may not need to use it as much. The one thing with vitamin D, because we all are very low after the pandemic, I gave you a nice handout on vitamin D, which talks about the food sources. We're out of them. God love this researcher. I heard him speak, and he made so much sense. He's out of Harvard, and he plotted for the entire world our maximum time for getting the sun will convert in your skin vitamin D, okay? Ours happens to be May to September, okay? 10 minutes is all you have to do is be outside. You don't have to be out there for hours, but ours happens to be May to September. He's done it for the whole world. Heard him speak, brilliant gentleman. But after that, what do? So we have to take a vitamin. Or you can do things like cod. Doesn't have to be the cod liver oil. It could be cod. Sardines, salmon, mackerel, tuna. egg yolks. It says mushrooms, but the number one mushroom is shiitake mushrooms. They are high in vitamin D. So add some to your cooking, and you just helped with your vitamin D. But what they didn't put on here is dairy products, because they do supplement with vitamin D. So use those as well. Now, we always suggest D3. Why D3? There are 3 levels of vitamin D. The first one is the beginning source. D2 is the intermediate. D3 is active vitamin D. And that's why you always hear take D3, D3. But if somebody gets a little gaseous, I move them to D2, just for a little while to get their stores up, and then we transition back to D3. But D2 is a good place to start as well. Now, how do you know you're getting what you're getting? It's really tough these days. There's this company in Rockville, and they developed the USP symbol. Companies pay for this symbol. And the symbol is to tell you you're getting what you're getting and you're not getting a sugar pill. I included in your packet the list of companies that have paid for this certification. Some put the USP symbol on their product, some don't. This is a good place to start, especially for vitamin D. There's another little thing that came out right before I was sitting in this meeting, right before the pandemic hit. There's been a lot of research going on. And with medications, we always looked at what foods interfered with those medicines. New research. What do those medicines take from our bodies to cause us that all of a sudden from a high pressure, blood pressure medicine, we're going to another medicine, to another medicine, to another medicine. Now, in this meeting, 80% of the room was physicians. Now, I'll take it back, 90%. 10% was the nutrition folks, and one of them was one of the leading researchers in nutrition. So she said, all you nutrition folks, we're meeting here. Get your lunch and come right here. She goes, this is our wheelhouse. We never thought about this. It was never required in drug research to say what nutrients these medications take from our system. And what was happening is we found it caused another medical condition to happen and another pill to your repertoire. So that researcher and myself, we made ourselves guinea pigs. We realized the bulk of the medicine, the vitamins that were being diminished were the B complex because they're water soluble. We don't store it, with the exception of B12. But what happened is, so she started every day on a low dose B complex plus C. She's now off 3 medicines. So now there's a movement if once we get everybody settled, and FDA is back up and running, to push for guidelines that say their new research has to include, for any new drug, has to say what interferes with the medicine, but what does it take out of the body. So I've done a B complex plus C, and I have to tell you, I felt great. Now, I started out as every other day. She did every day. I have gone to every day at the start of the pandemic and have done really well. I've gotten through it better than some of my peers did. They're going, why is your energy so? Now, I did go down on my energy, don't get me wrong, but I did things like I started doing some of my own yard work just to get outside. but I still felt like I was getting tired because we were staying in so much. So I'm building up on my stamina, but I did better than some of my peers who didn't do this. And when I talked with the researcher, she was the same way. So we've been our own guinea pigs. With water-soluble vitamins, take it at the end of the day to get the maximum benefit. This is what we both found, because she took it at breakfast and I took it at bedtime. And when we went and had some blood work done, we realized my absorption was higher than hers during the day. So with the B complex, if you take it by itself, take it at bedtime so you increase your absorption. Now, what's the other thing the doctors always say when you go, I got a poor appetite? Drink a can of Ensure. Okay. Me, I'm going, all right, so let's talk about what's the easy foods to cook with. What can we stock your refrigerator that when you have tired days, you can turn to? And if you have leftovers, this is a great invention. It's a food saver. I was going to say Surf Safe, but it's food saver, where you could take your leftovers, put it in the little plastic pouch, vacuum seal it, throw it in the freezer, and for the days you don't feel like cooking, you can take it out, heat it up in the microwave. Works. Used it putting up stuff in the summertime, but it works great with leftovers. So that way you don't have to throw out things. But you do need to remember that Ensure is meant short term, not long term. Okay? And I have an issue with Ensure just because you feel so full, then you don't feel like eating anything else. And plus, it gets boring. My thing is take it, freeze it in small bowls, and eat it like ice cream at the end of your meal, and you get the same results. Eating out, it's gotten expensive, hasn't it? Restaurants are short on staff. Their food supply isn't on what it was. Did you notice the menus have gotten shorter? They're not books anymore. Choices have been a little easier. So remember, it's okay to ask for a doggy bag and bring it home. Plan your meals based on your grocery ads. Wednesday is when all the ads come out. Think about what you have in your pantry. Think about make your grocery list based on the ads, and make your weekly cooking based on what the ads are there so that you can stretch your budget. My other rule is never shop on an empty stomach. You buy more. And then you get home going, why did I buy this? It looked good, but I know I did this before. It didn't taste good. So never on an empty stomach. The one thing is, I still find myself relearning things from the pandemic. For some reason, I went through, and I think we all did, some brain freeze. So there is a knowledge deficit out there. We're all trying to find ways to do that. Mine has been to get out there and share messages and information. But read up, okay? Thankfully, Dr. Oz is not on TV and he's not preaching incorrect information, but my card's there on the packet. Call me if you have questions. I'll be glad to answer them for you. And if I'm not there, don't worry about it. You can also email me, but I'm in the field a lot. So like this week, I'm in the field every day this week. Not in the office much. So the one thing I really, truly believe in is practice gratitude. It helps center you so much. And it turns, we had such a negative time the previous administration, that gratitude moved everybody's center and didn't get into that spiral of hatred, okay? So please, think about that. And helping others. I find helping others uplifts you so much. And that's why I enjoy this job, because it gives me such pleasure. I wouldn't tell my bosses that. I would do it for free. Don't want to tell them that, okay? But I do enjoy doing this. Remember to eat slowly, okay? Don't try it. A lot of times doctors say eat in front of the TV. I'm going, you wind up eating more, but you do that. And we did talk about the other part. Okay, questions? Anything at all for me? Test my knowledge, yeah. Uh-huh. Avocado is perfect. Avocado is fine to use, okay? You get the same results with avocado as olive oil. Just don't go below virgin. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's the same question that goes, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We're considering margarine and butter the same, okay? Especially when it's in stick form. They're both considered saturated fats at that point. I always tell people go with the soft. I still keep stick for cooking just because it takes that higher temperature. So if I'm going to put a little, like fry something, and I put a little bit of margarine in there, that's because it takes the heat better than the soft, okay? So I have the stick for baking, cooking, and I have the others for on my bread. Whatever you're comfortable with, you may notice Smart Balance may have a little bit more water in it than traditional soft margarine. So whichever works, I have one researcher I talked to, he's gone back to butter. He goes, there's no difference, and I love butter. I love the taste of butter. So there is no difference between what's going on. It's a stick, it's still going to be a little bit of saturated fat in the regular margarine, and whatever works best for you, whatever's easier. I'm sorry? Everything in moderation, always in moderation. That is one of my favorite terms, and people look at me going, huh? I even tell people, because one doctor that I used to work with used to say no desserts, and I'm going, there's always room for dessert. Do it at the end of the meal because it covers the blood sugars for diabetics, so it doesn't spike the blood sugars. If you wait 2 hours later, you're going to get a spike in your blood sugar and another medicine. So always do it with your meal, and when you do it with your meal, guess what? You don't eat as much. A small piece works just as well. You've got your taste, and it works well. Same thing with chocolate. Okay, this is where the cardiologist and I kind of have a fun point. I'm going, chocolate is great for women's health, hearts. It is very protective of women's hearts. And he's going, that's because women love chocolate. No. It's an actual research study that said chocolate actually improved the strength of the women's hearts. So enjoy your chocolate. Don't get the Palmer chocolate. Don't do the Palmer, okay? I tell people Hershey's as low as I go, okay? Godiva is in a lawsuit with the government right now because they claimed their chocolate came from Belgium and it didn't. So they're in a settlement right now, so you may not, that's why you don't see the Godiva stores in the mall. It wasn't because of the pandemic, it was because of the lawsuit, okay? So you're not going to see their little boutiques anymore. They're going to be selling it on the shelves just like the rest. Lindt is a good one, if you've ever had Lindt chocolate. That's an excellent one as well. My other one is Ghirardelli, which comes from San Francisco. So they're a good brand. I go to Wok and Foss because they do just as well. And then there's a chocolatier up in Baltimore, and I just faded on their name, but they're a good one too. So yeah, so chocolate is great for, it's very protective of women's heart, not men's, I'm sorry. Uh-huh. I usually do mine at bedtime to maximize the absorption because at the day I'm drinking so much, I find it might excrete out before it gets to where it's going. I'm sorry. The B's are mostly for your nerves and your memory, but also they're really important with a lot of reactions in your body that I just find B vitamins, with the exception of B12, by the way. B vitamins is use it or lose it. If the body doesn't need it, it excretes it. But because it's water soluble and you're on the go and you're sweating or you're drinking a lot, then the body doesn't absorb it, you excrete it. So I always do it at bedtime. Doesn't matter. All the B complex. Because guess what? This is something we learned. Each B vitamin hides behind another B vitamin. So you may have what comes up in the blood work is a B12 deficiency, but you really also have a B6 or B2. So a lot of us have moved to do the whole B complex instead of just one. And really has worked much better. Yeah. You need to eat. Food first is my rule, okay? Because the body is made to get its needs made from food, okay? So I always go food first, all right? Vitamins are secondary, and sometimes we can't eat enough for what's going on in our body that we need those vitamins. What I would suggest is get a good multivitamin, go with Nature's Made or something like that to incorporate some of those so you don't have so many pill bottles, okay? Because sometimes bundling them is much better than doing them individually. But especially with vitamin D, take it with your fattest meal because what's in a multivitamin is not at enough level for this time of year to get the vitamin D your body needs. Uh-huh. 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 That's where, yeah, that's where I have an issue. Yeah, it is more for money, and the question comes in because the vitamin industry is unregulated right now. Okay, so that's why the USP came along to help the consumer get what they're paying for. And so, what I'm saying to you is, I think that doctor's getting a kickback from that And you may not need those things because, a lot of those things, like if you eat fatty fish, you just got your fish oil for the day. So if you eat tuna or you eat salmon or you eat some of the other fish, you got your fish oil. You've got everything. I'm food first, pill secondary. Yeah, omega 3s we find do help with heart disease. Um, but my question is, how reliable a manufacturer is that? Okay, are you getting what you're paying for? You may be getting an vegetable oil tablet because it's an unregulated industry. So that's why I would say the USP symbol. And I'm, yeah. And you're on such a low amount of medications that I think in reality, and not to judge here, but sometimes doctors over vitaminize us and pull back a little. Don't tell them you pull back, okay? But just pull back some and see what happens. Mm-hmm. But what we can do is, if you send me an email, I can tell you what foods to eat to give you what you need, because then the body will absorb it more. Uh-huh. Probably not, but zinc really didn't do anything. I mean, we went through a lot of things with COVID, okay? I have to tell you this, all right? This is the one thing, and in the early days, I sat in on the NIH calls, and one day I hung up because I'm like, dear Lord, the world's going to end. It's like I knew I was in panic mode and I had to disconnect. So then Dr. Fauci's secretary called me and she goes, he just wants to make sure you're okay. I'm going, you guys scared the daylights out of me. And I was almost in a panic attack and I had to stop. Rationale came, stop, deep breath, center yourself. And then I was fine. I went around and I think I raked a half a yard of leaves at that time, whatever it took to calm myself down, because it was scary. If the public heard half of what I heard, they wouldn't question about the pandemic at all, okay? Here's a little side trivia for you guys. World Health finally was allowed into China, because we've all suspected this is where it's come from, okay? We've got the links, travel links and everything. We just need the final validation. So World Health goes in, asked to go to the lab, because we've got 3 scenarios and 2 are with a lab. They were denied access. All right, well, take us to the wet market, because the wet market, if you're not familiar with it, they sell these really bizarre animals for herbal remedies and things like that. They had torn it down, burned it, buried it, and covered it with asphalt. Now, how can we tell what happened? How can we really validate where this came from? So World Health right now is not in a happy spot, neither is NIH, but we're doing what we can, and we're struggling with it. This thing was it mutates very quickly, quicker than any virus we've ever had. And so you see me with my mask. The reason is my dad just turned 90. I'm his primary caregiver. If I'm not there for him, I do it for them. You know, I've only been challenged once. I was coming out of a store, and this guy's reaching for my mask and says, "Girl, breathe." And I said, "Stop." And he's like, "Excuse me?" I said, "Stop. I don't question why you're not wearing one, but you don't have the right to question why I'm wearing one. You don't know my reason." And he ran. I mean, I never did a sprint across the parking lot. Going, real committed to the cause, weren't we? So, yeah. So I didn't do it in a nasty way. He caught me off guard, but then I just put my hand up and said, "Stop." And then it's like, you don't know why I wear a mask. So, yes, it has been a very tough time. We are doing better. This vaccine covers more variations than the other because we did not anticipate it would mutate that quickly. We thought we were dealing with a normal flu season. What we've learned has been tremendous. And so this version of the vaccine should get us through much better. And the Omicron is far more contagious than the others. So yeah, but yeah, you can do some research, but food, I go by the adage, food first. But sometimes we can't eat enough to take care of what we need, and that's where the supplements come in. And then sometimes we have to go to medications. And I've been in circles because I've been through kidney disease circles as well as heart and all. And it's like the message has always been, we'd like to do food first, but sometimes we got to turn to medicines. But now that we have this new hiccup that we don't know what these medicines take from our body, we're now scrambling to figure that out. Some of my peers do, and sometimes they turn to me and ask what she would do. And so we came up with some real inexpensive things, and I pulled that bag of tricks out with the pandemic to stretch that budget money, for people stretching their budget, and we try and do that. We've been very fortunate that our farmers have donated a lot to the food banks during the pandemic, and they're still doing it. So people do get that. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We had you here for nutrition, for health, and for eating habits, but I think we all got more than that. Yes. And I really appreciate what you've done. And if I reach out again, it's because we need you. And we all have Karen's email address in our packages, because I know a lot of us, I have questions, but we run out of time. If you can reach out to her, I'm sure she'll be glad to get back to you. And I'm going to reach
Yes.
out to you.
Yes. I always tell people one thing, there are no dumb questions. The dumb questions are the ones you don't ask. Okay? And we don't get further along until we learn from each other. And I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that I've learned gotten from them as much as they've gotten from me. So, yeah. Thank you.